Okay, let's unpack this. We're diving into, well, this really huge relationship between philosophical doubt, the sheer routine of your everyday life, and maybe the ethical red lines when we automate moral decisions.
Yeah, it's a fascinating mix. We've got insights from Bertrand Russell on doubt, some deep sociology on what we call quotidianidad or everyday life, and even recent studies on moral algorithms.
And our mission here really is to figure out what part of making ethical calls has to stay human, unequivocally human.
And, maybe surprisingly, why understanding your own daily habits is kind of the key to unlocking these bigger questions.
Okay, so let's start big, cosmically big. Bertrand Russell, right? He said philosophy tackles these primordial problems.
Exactly. Like, does the universe have a purpose? Is consciousness just, a blip? Asking these questions creates what he called a liberating doubt. It's actually what fuels knowledge.
But you can't live in that state of constant cosmic uncertainty.
Acting, thinking, even feeling that we absorb from our social background.
So it's not something you consciously decide moment to moment.
Not really. It's
Ugh.
learned without you realizing it, and it then actively structures how you see things and what you do. It's like this hidden social programming.
And our brains are totally wired for this kind of programming. The neuroscience is pretty clear, isn't it? Habits make up what, like 40% of what we do daily?
A huge chunk, yeah. And repeating actions literally strengthens the brain circuits involved. That's neuroplasticity.
Fueled by dopamine, the reward chemical.
Exactly. So your intentional practice could be learning piano, could be developing an ethical reflex. It's literally physically reorganizing your brain. It's efficient. It helps us survive.
Okay, so if our brains are masters of automating routines for efficiency, well, the modern world loves efficiency. Which brings us to automating moral decisions with algorithms. Where's the line?
That's the critical question. And there's research like Understanding the Limits of Moral Automation study that gives us some pointers.
What does it say?
Basically, you should not fully automate decisions that involve really complex moral trade-offs, decisions that directly impact human life, obviously,
Mhm.
or ones needing a lot of empathy and context. You just can't code that nuance.
Right, because efficiency isn't the same as, well, wisdom or judgment.
Precise. And then you hit the bias problem. Automation promises consistency, but if the data it learns from is biased.
It just automates the bias. We saw that with the Compass algorithm in the US, used for predicting recidivism risk.
Yeah, that's a stark example. The algorithm learned from historical crime data that already reflected systemic racial biases. So instead of being objective, it ended up perpetuating those very biases in its predictions.
Making the problem worse, almost, by giving it a veneer of tech neutrality.
Exactly. It shows automation can just amplify our human flaws if we're not incredibly careful about the data and the design.
So the human element isn't just about oversight then, it's about retaining the actual ability to make these judgments ourselves.
Yes, there's a real risk of what some call moral atrophy.
Hmm.
If we outsource too much of the difficult contextual moral thinking, we might literally lose the skill, the muscle to do it ourselves.
Like a muscle you don't use.
Pretty much. The ultimate responsibility, the ethical buck, has to stop with the human designer, the human operator. Always.
So accountability needs to remain human.
Absolutely. The process has to be transparent, answerable to human ethical standards. The efficiency we get from habits, whether they're in our heads or in code, can't erase the need for, flexible human moral reasoning.
Okay, so wrapping this up. We started way out there with philosophical doubt about the universe.
And we landed right back in your daily routine, discovering that those simple habits are built to manage the fear that doubt causes. But they also literally shape our moral selves.
That's a real tension, isn't it?
It is. And here's maybe the final thought for you to chew on.
Hmm?
If philosophy needs that liberating doubt to function, but our daily habits are designed for certainty and to suppress fear, how do you consciously build a life, a routine that gets you the efficiency you need, but also intentionally make space for the doubt, the questioning? That's essential for real ethical growth. Something to think about next time you're on autopilot.